Good afternoon and welcome to Chris 180's award-winning Lunchtime Live series. I'm Chandra Luckett, Chief Marketing Officer here at Chris 180, and we are thrilled that you have joined us for the November edition of our annual series. We're excited today to talk about a conversation that has so many of us thinking, coping with the uncertainty of life. Thanksgiving, can you believe it? It's next week. What do we do? Do we go see our families? Do we stay at home? Do we wear masks? How do we protect each other in this season? From the Thanksgiving concerns to Christmas to a really stressful election season and everything in between. This time has been filled with so much uncertainty and really has forced many of us to learn how to cope with the changes happening around us. That's our topic today, and our therapists are here to give you some tips and suggestions for how to move forward. We're excited for this conversation because we know it's something that many of you have been talking about at home, in the virtual water cooler, or even with your teams at work. Today, I'd like to introduce our panelists, starting first with Cassandra Royal, who is the Clinical Director of Chris 180's Fulton County Behavioral Health Program, and Gabrielle Parker, who is a licensed therapist here at Chris 180. I'm going to kick it off to them to start. Please make sure, as always, you leave comments and questions in the chat box below, and we will answer those live. Ladies, take it away.
Thank you, Chandra. So one of the things that we really love about Fulton County Behavioral Health and Chris 180 is just coming together and sharing our knowledge and being able to share it with you. So Gabby, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good afternoon.
I'm excited. It's our first time being panelists, and I'm excited to do so. I know we have a lot of conversation, working in the same industry, in the same field. And so one of the things that Chandra had talked about was just everything that is going on right now. So with some of the clients that you've seen in Fulton County Behavioral Health, where's it at?
Yeah, I think this is such a critical conversation and it's coming at a perfect time. I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but I can't believe Thanksgiving is next week. I think it's been a very unique year for everyone with new challenges that we did not anticipate to happen in 2020. And I think that's caused a lot of increase in stress and anxiety, depression, feelings of isolation, a lot of really big feelings that people are experiencing. Some people who've never had challenges with mental health issues are experiencing that for the first time and are also kind of feeling like they're experiencing it in somewhat of a silo because the pandemic is causing us to feel so isolated. So that's kind of some of the stuff that I've been noticing with some of the families and the clients that I've been working with.
I agree. I think during clinical supervision I have with a lot of you, I'm seeing the same thing, including the parents that typically are not saying, like, I don't have a mental health, I don't have a mental illness, and they're really struggling to see their kids and trying to embrace them when they're also working from home in a virtual world.
Right.
How do you, work with the kids in the virtual world in the educational setting? So those that I think typically don't have the mental health on their perspective, or it's somebody else, not me, are really being challenged. And it's single people. I think mental health, and we deal with it every day, but a lot of people don't realize that, it has no discriminatory. It could be a single person, it could be married couples, it could be the elderly, whether you live alone or with someone, and really facing those relationships are getting challenged right now.
Well, and I think for a lot of people, the ways that they had coped with challenging things before have to look a lot different. So going out and being with friends and family, that might not be able to happen. So we're kind of having to completely do a change in the way that we cope and the way that we are resilient to things that are being thrown at us. And that can be a really big challenge if you have done things and they've worked for you your whole life, and now, okay, this isn't working and I'm kind of struggling.
Absolutely. So I know for those that are listening in, we can share stories back and forth of the clients that we see and the families that we see. And I think it's really just acknowledging this season, the holiday season, going into the fall weathers, the Friday night football games that, can or didn't happen, the holiday Thanksgiving, like we said, that's happening next week, including, Christmas and just winter events that we typically have, those traditions we typically had, and what those look like and different. So feel free to message our team. And if you have any questions about what you're going through, or again, questions for us about how to get you through those times, let us know what those are so we can answer them during this time with you. So,
Yeah, so I think kind of starting the conversation about, okay, the holiday season is coming. What do we do? How do we handle it? Acknowledging that this is going to look different for a lot of our families. A lot of people are making really tough decisions about, whether or not they're going to visit with family or spending time or going to be by themselves. And those are really, really tough choices, and just acknowledging that you're making a really, really tough choice and leaning on your support system. People who have never spent holidays alone may be alone for the first time, kind of making that ultimate sacrifice to protect the safety of their family and their loved ones. And I just want to validate that, because that is an incredibly stressful position to be in. You're kind of juggling lots of different things, and that's really tough.
I think especially now, the tough decision is it the right one? And the answer is yes.
Right.
The right decision is the decision you make. So whether it is to go out, whether it is to meet up with family at a coffee shop, or using those wonderful COVID precautions that we have, even you and I right now, is we're 6 feet away and we're making sure that we're speaking, in a different direction to each other. So the right one is the one that you decide to make. It's the one that, is right for you, and don't have guilt about it. It is the right one. So whether, you're getting those family guilt of, please come see me, if it's not right for you or you want to protect that other person, it's okay. And I think that is the biggest message we can give today, is just to look yourself in the mirror and say, it's okay. My decision is okay. And that's the only person you really need to be accountable to, is the one that's staring you back in that mirror.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think just kind of having a conversation about that it's going to look different, that holidays are going to look different for lots of people, and how you can kind of keep things alive, traditions alive, or build new traditions, so that you can kind of have and build those great memories that you have from the holidays. Or for some people who it's just another day, whatever you need this time to be, like Cassandra was saying, it's your decision, it's your choice, and that's what matters most, is you're making the best decision for you.
So I definitely have a shirt that says my favorite color is Christmas light, just because I love all the different colors. But really my favorite color is silver. And I think a lot of the time I try to find the silver lining in things. Pun absolutely intended. So, with those traditions that we may be missing, including, it's all about grief and loss. And I think some people think about grief and loss as, whether or not it is the loss of a loved one, which a lot of us are going through, especially with COVID. The loss of someone that passed away that did not have COVID, and it was just a different type of situation. So, but the other grief and loss that we're dealing with is those traditions that Gabby talked about. And with that silver lining is, how do we incorporate those loved ones still in our situation? How do we incorporate those traditions, and the silver lining, make new ones, making those new traditions that you might be able to do next year.
Right. And I think also just kind of, if you have a tradition that's going to look a little different, technology is amazing and you can get super creative. If, baking cookies with grandma is your favorite thing that you do in the holiday season and that can't happen, how can you do that virtually via FaceTime or Zoom, or just another way to kind of still keep those traditions alive, having a moment of silence for loved ones that have passed, having a Thanksgiving Zoom, or having different kind of crafts or whatever you can kind of come up with to celebrate the holidays and kind of make it that special time of year that a lot of people look forward to.
And if grandma's not with us, maybe making her cookies to bring her present with us. But I think we have a question from you guys, so hopefully bring it on. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
All right, so this one says, we are struggling with the decision to not see my parents for Thanksgiving, but they are assuming that we don't want to come, not that we shouldn't come, when in fact we want to keep them safe. How can I express that to them, in spite of our choices, that we still love them?
Yeah, I think that this is probably a question that lots of people are currently, experiencing. I think having that conversation with them and saying, I'm making this decision for you guys. I want to protect you guys. I love you guys. I care about you guys. I care about your well-being and your safety. And let's try to have a different way. Can we do it over Zoom? Can we FaceTime? Can we play games virtually so that because they really just want to see you, right? That's what that's all about, and that's what that's coming from. So try to kind of find a different way to connect with them that's not with them in a face-to-face setting.
And it sounds like what I'm also hearing in that question is that the love that you have for your parents is what is being questioned. And, it's to talk to your parents about, we're staying away because we love you. We're staying away because we want another Christmas with you. We want another Thanksgiving with you. So, there's a lot of different things that can be happening. But a lot of it is to validate that love. And because that's what I hear being questioned. So.
We have another question, this one from Susan on Facebook, and she asked, how do I communicate to my older sister who does not understand my choice to not attend our family Christmas gathering, even though she thinks they are now immune to COVID since all of her family members had it 2 months ago. She is still upset because we decided not to attend a family wedding in June. As the older sister, she's always been right.
Well, thank you for asking us the question. And again, a lot of it is that validation. And it sounds like it's also one of those push and pull, whose perspective is right. And again, you're both right. Your sister wants to see you, but you are also wanting to protect yourself and your family, and that is okay. So having that conversation with your sister about, we appreciate you want to see us. We appreciate that, you want that family bond, but please also, while we respect your perspective, can you respect our perspective and our decision that we are going to stay safe for us? This is a time that, a lot of people think, oh, it's the holidays and don't be a Grinch, don't be selfish. During this pandemic, this is a time that sometimes you have to be. So again, make the decision that is right for you. Communicate it with fact and not emotion of why you're making those decisions, and asking your family for the ultimate thing, which is to respect you, because you're also respecting them on their decision. So, now's not the time for drama, but it is a time for respect and love.
Okay, so I think we kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about different ideas for, keeping traditions alive, building new ones. So what are some traditions, Cassandra, that you are going to do, or your new ones that you're going to build with your family?
So I think with the stress of the holidays, we love getting all together in my family and making those cookies and baking. For us, we're getting a menu together and we're making the same menu at every single location. So that way everybody's like, oh, what do you got over there? I can say, oh yeah, I have it right here, and then also the Zooming. So the technology that we have, all my kids have smartphones, and if they want to bring up a different friend, bring them to the table and sit them at the table so they still feel like they're there. What about you?
Absolutely. A couple of ideas that I've just kind of heard. One that I think this year has put a lot of things in perspective for us, and kind of just wanting to celebrate the time that we get to spend with family. So I think a really wonderful idea that we had talked about was kind of creating a tablecloth that has like handprints on it, or you get to write your name or a little message, and then you get to kind of celebrate it and bring it out the next year, so that this can be something that you look back on, years, 5-10 years to come. There might be new additions to the tablecloth, or you might be able to celebrate the lives of those loved ones that you've lost. And I think that sounds like such a cool memory to be able to have, and not something that my family had ever done before. So that's kind of a new thing that I think we're going to incorporate, and that I've also talked about with some of the families that I work with. And I love the Zoom. I mean, we can't be together in person, so we're gonna Zoom in, and that's awesome. So
I love that new tradition, because one of the things we also do is we love to travel, and of course we've been travel a lot this year. And with my family, we get an ornament for everywhere we travel. We put on a little tree, and then we put on a big tree and remember the places we went. So we don't have a lot this year, but now it's making our own new ornaments. And I think that, especially with your tablecloth idea, I think we're going to implement that in, because you can also watch your kids grow and watch the people come in and out of your life on who visited that year.
Yeah,
that's a great tradition.
I love that.
Ladies, talk a little bit about situational depression and why some people may be facing that more now than ever before.
So situational depression, it's kind of what we alluded to before, where people are thinking about mental health and it's like, oh, that's not me. I'm not depressed. I'm not anxious. And there's something that we refer to as seasonal affective disorder, which is we get the doom and glooms during the winter holidays because the sun's not out. And if you think about it, it's very similar to what's happening right now. Our sun and our joy is not necessarily out with this pandemic. So, we don't get to go out on vacations and everything like that, and we feel that restricted and lack of control. So when we feel that lack of control, anxiety can be present, depression can be present. But you have to ask yourself, and this is where we go through a lot when we're talking with our clients, is if this pandemic didn't exist and you regained that control, you regained, having different activities in your life, would that anxiety and depression still be there? And if the answer is no, that's what we consider that situational mental health or situational depression. It's in the time that we live in right now, not necessarily that it's going to stay here.
Absolutely. And I think for a lot of people that are experiencing sort of that situational depression and also situational anxiety, it can be very overwhelming. And, getting yourself some resources, potentially getting yourself into some therapy services for the time, because this is a time in the world that none of us have had to navigate before. So it is completely understandable and completely okay that you might need a different perspective or some help. And I think that's absolutely important to kind of get across that, a lot of us are struggling and a lot of us have never dealt with these challenges before. And it's okay to reach out if you need some help.
And I think people think about counseling as it's a year or it's longer, or, once I get in, I can't get out. And I love when we can celebrate the successes with our clients. They're only with us for a month. It was just to get them over that hurdle. And then it's, we're celebrating that they found a way to be able to cope with the depression and anxiety in a 4-week time. Or if it's a 4-month time, it's okay. It's whatever duration you guys need. That's why we're here. And we'll be here as long as you need us to, whether it's 2 weeks or 2 months. So,
absolutely.
I think we have a question again.
We do. So this one says, what tips do you have for someone living alone and working 100% remote? I feel very disconnected during this season.
I think that, first of all, I just want to validate that experience for you. Being alone in the holidays can kind of bring up a lot of stuff for you. I think kind of one idea that I've kind of heard specifically in relation to the holidays is kind of getting into that inner child and think about like, what memories as a child did you really love and trying to incorporate that? I'm thinking of like Home Alone and trying to kind of reciprocate that. Also, another thing, if you're gonna be alone for the holidays, are you able to set something up virtually? Another thing is something that makes a lot of people feel great is, doing things for others. So that could be like fostering an animal or, delivering food if you feel comfortable, to the unhoused community, doing these things that can kind of boost your mood. If you're recognizing that like, this is going to be a challenging time of year for me. I think that just kind of already implementing those things in place and getting yourself prepared, is a really, really key part.
I love the idea where you said get into your inner child. Yeah. And that's, and I think about it with Home Alone, like how many things did Macaulay Culkin do in Home Alone that he wouldn't do with his parents or with people there? Yeah. So, it's idea of, finding a way to move forward, finding a way to move into a positive light and a positive direction. So, if you are in culinary or really like to bake, find a recipe that you've never done before. And maybe that's the time to do it. Is no one's going to know if you burnt the turkey. No one's going to know if you burnt that bread. You can actually find some great solitude in, being alone right now, because you can find some really good things to do. And then you decide if you want to share them or not, whether it's on social media, whether it's on Zoom, or even having a coffee hour where you make coffee with a friend of yours and doing the same thing. So I think that those are the things that we have to do, is find a way to move forward and not be stuck. And because again, stuck is where we find a lot of our clients, and that's most of the things that we try to do is where do we go from here?
Yeah, absolutely. think we have a question.
So can you all explain a little bit how people should handle guilt over their choices and deciding whether not even to just travel, but see friends during this time period? And right now we keep talking about another lockdown and maybe more people have to stay closer in. How do you talk and handle the guilt that people may be feeling?
I think with guilt, again, guilt is your perspective. So if you're looking at it, most of the time, guilt feeds on something that you particularly need. So if you really need to look at it on an internal perspective of finding what is that need of yours that is not being met? What is the need that your family member is pulling in you for you to feel guilty? Because again, you can't have guilt if it's not, that seed's already there. So it's acknowledging that seed. It's acknowledging that I might feel guilty a little bit today, but tomorrow I have to know when all is said and done, I'm keeping myself safe. I'm keeping my family safe, and the same thing, because we hear guilt both ways, where it is guilt to stay home and it's guilt to go out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you really, really nailed it. Notice what you need, because something, your body is telling you that you need something, that there's a need that's not being met. And then to kind of just like sit with that guilt and recognize, okay, where am I feeling this? What can I do? What can I implement into like a self-care plan to handle this? And then also know that, you're probably feeling that guilt because you have a lot of love, like we talked about earlier, for your loved ones, and recognize that. I think that that's really important as well.
Absolutely. So we can probably spend another hour talking about various, coping skills and what to do. And I think it's just do some self-reflection on what makes you happy, because we are the only ones that can make us happy. So if you're feeling guilty, change that around a little bit. But
looks like we have another question.
Yes, and this one is perfect for you too, since you all work with children in your programs. And so this parent asks, how can I explain to my kids about the chance of a second lockdown they keep hearing about? They experienced a little bit more freedom in the past few months since school opened part-time, but that all may be taken away again, and I'm not sure what to do.
Absolutely. I think that this is something that a lot of parents are navigating, that they also don't really know how to have these conversations because they don't have answers to give. And I think that that's okay to say to kids, I'm not entirely sure what January, February is going to look like, but we're going to have these conversations as a family. I think a great idea is, maybe on Sunday evenings, you incorporate family meetings where you just have 20, 30 minutes of a space where everyone comes, and this is just kind of our open, honest conversation time to talk about some of the stuff that we've been struggling, some questions that we might have about what's to come or what our week has looked like, and kind of acknowledge that we've kind of been like moving goalposts for a while now, and recognize that that can be kind of frustrating and confusing, and you might not have all the answers, and I think it's okay to say that.
Communication is key. I agree with you, Gabby. I think, now's the time to communicate. Communicate what you need, communicating and listening to what your children need, and finding that balance. And I think balance is going to be the biggest thing that we can possibly do for each other as well as for ourselves, is find a way to navigate everything moving forward. But also have a strategic plan. So plan for both. Plan for the ability to go back. What are some of the things that your kids are looking forward to, of wanting to get back into the environment and back in the community? And on the same thing, what can you do if there's a lot of lockdown? So, can you put some of those same ideas, if they're just looking forward to playing Uno with their friends? There's some great games right now that are virtual that they can play with their friends in a different household. So again, it's finding some alternative strategies, but plan both ways.
Another question.
Yes, this one came into a message to our page, and it says, any advice on how folks quarantining together can support each other through the holidays? We're all feeling stretched thin and missing seeing our extended families, and sometimes it feels like we don't have emotional energy left to support each other.
My goodness, I will tell you, sorry, Gabby, one of the things, I used to work in a virtual world where I was home 24/7, and now I'm not, but all my kids are home too. And I think that, we really valued that disconnect sometimes of being in different households, because now it is 24/7 where we are together. But one of the things that I really enjoy about them is they're starting to see the strengths of each other. And we also are acknowledging that if someone is in their room, it's because they just need that alone time. And if they're out and about and eating, the family dinner or watching TV, it's because we want to be with each other. So again, it's that balance game of whether or not you can take care of yourself and understanding your needs, but also respecting everybody else, that they may not have the same amount of energy that you do at the same time. And if you have a little more energy to give, just check in on your loved one of saying, do you want to play cards? Do you want to paint? Do you want to draw? Like, I got my crayons out. I am older. I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I'm older. But I got into that inner child and started coloring and painting with my kids, and it was fun.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to kind of the analogy: if your cup is not full, you aren't able to fill other people's cups. So going back, putting your, we use the analogy a lot of putting your mask on first. If you're on an airplane, they tell you put your mask on before you put your child or anyone else's next to you's mask, and that's really, really important. You need to be doing things to take care of yourself. And if you feel like you have the capacity to reach out to someone in your home and say, okay, what's going on? Let's do something together, and kind of take that lead, because you're filling their cup up, and that can ultimately come back to you.
I love that. So I think that, filling the cup, what you said was, it comes back to that's that balance game that we were talking about, how to navigate that balance game. Is, again, is as much as we keep trying to think about what can we do with others, it's okay to think about yourself. It's okay to identify what you need, what your family needs, and how do you make sure that everybody is going back and forth. And, sometimes you're going to feel like a roller coaster. Sometimes it's going to feel like just a teeter-totter. I'm really dating myself now. Or a seesaw, but again, it's going back and forth. Is how do you walk to the middle so the waves aren't so crashing on you?
Yeah. I mean, I think putting yourself first and thinking about yourself first is not just okay; it's crucial right now. And really, really taking the time to check in with yourself, check in with your body, and see what it needs. Fill those needs and take some extra care for yourself, because we're all going through a lot. And that extra care is going to go a long way, and it's going to help you, to be able to continue to kind of fight what might be to come.
Mm-hmm. And I think when you sit and you realize, I don't feel the same, I'm feeling unbalanced, it's going to be okay to pick up the phone and call someone outside, whether it's one of us, whether it's our colleagues, someone else at Chris 180. But again, it is okay to make that phone call for you to start feeling balanced in and how you can feel better about yourselves. And we are full of ideas, as you can tell. We have the energy if you don't. And so, let us fill your cup up so you can fill somebody else's cup up.
I mean, it's an enormous strength to recognize that you need some extra help. So I just want to reiterate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, ladies, for being here and for sharing so many great tips. As they said, you have to fill your own cup up first before you can help anyone else. And here at Chris 180, we help you do that. So please reach out if you need some help, as they said, for a season or maybe for a few months or even just for a few days. We are here to support you. If you would like to talk to one of our trained therapists, please go to our website, chris180.org. That's chris180.org, and we'll be happy to help you and put you in contact with someone who can get you through this time. We wish you a very happy Thanksgiving, and we hope that you are safe and healthy in this season. We also want to remind you that Giving Tuesday and the season of giving is among us. And on December 1st, that's a Tuesday, the first Tuesday after Thanksgiving, is one of the biggest charitable times of the year. If you have $5 or $10 or $15, that can help us reach more people who could not afford our services otherwise. So please give what you can to Chris 180 during that time. And on Giving Tuesday, our match is the dollar for dollar match. So if you give us $1, we can match it another way. Please, please, please consider giving to us so that we can give to others in this season of giving. We hope you have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you back here next month.